This is Wildsnake, released in 1994 for the Super Nintendo courtesy of Spectrum, Holobyte, and Bulletproof Software. Wildsnake is another one of them puzzle game things where you have snakes falling from the sky, and your main goal is to clear away the snakes by having two snakes of the same type touch each other. The snake can be controlled using the D-pad, slithering along the path you guided on until its path is blocked, at which point the snake stops moving yet remains firmly erect, thus becoming an obstacle for the next snake to come along, and basically things start to pile up until you start killing snakes. A well-placed kill means a cascade of snakes falling to the bottom, occupying whatever empty space they could come across and changing the dynamics of the playfield. A typical game of Wildsnake starts you off with only a few snake types to manage, but every once in a while introduces another type of snake to make things more complicated. Not only that, but in grand puzzle game tradition, the game speed ramps up as you progress further, making things a bit more challenging. Fortunately, once in a while you'll have this flashing snake thing drop down and kill all snakes of the type it touches, and then there's this other bigger snake that just drops down and kills whatever crosses its path, which is always fun to watch and a tad helpful. You have 3 difficulty settings to play with, which determines the overall speed of the game, as well as an option to disable the preview for your next snake. In addition to that, you also have the option to play in one of 7 different playfields that drastically change the dynamic of the game. So if the straightforward well seems a bit on the easy side, you could try one of these other varieties that will put your skills to the test. And then there's King Cobra, a special mode where you are presented with a variety of challenges to complete within a specified amount of time, and when you complete a challenge you get a little animation that plays out, which is actually pretty neat. There's also a 2-player mode where you and the second player can compete against one another, and you could form garbage blocks to obstruct your opponent and that sort of thing. And I'll admit that I wasn't entirely sold on the idea of Wildsnake. It took me a good while to really get into the gimmick that the game was built around, but after a while, I found myself having a bit of a good time with this game. When you get right into it, the concept isn't all that complex, and the mechanics of the game actually work well enough that it seems almost natural. It's enough of a twist on the falling block style of puzzle game to be different from the norm, but not quite enough to be a completely foreign concept. It's a good concept that plays well, controls fine with a D-pad moving the snake, and has an addictive quality to it that's synonymous with any good puzzle game. Wildsnake has a fairly simplistic but otherwise straightforward visual style. You have all these different snakes that are just really 1 or 2 snakes painted different colors, and that's more than adequate considering how well enough they move and animate around the playfield. The game provides 4 backdrops you could choose from for normal gameplay, as well as a special backdrop for the King Cobra mode, and they look alright. King Cobra has these extra animations that play between rounds, and while not quite stellar smoothness, they're quite a treat nonetheless. It's nothing special in terms of visuals overall, but it's straightforward enough to get the job done, and at the very least, they're okay looking. Sound, on the other hand, is probably the one weakness in Wildsnake. Sound effects are almost negligible, and the background tunes, while adopting a somewhat appropriate Arabic theme, are just kind of there, so meh. It's something, I guess. Overall, Wildsnake is a novel take on the falling block puzzle game that's actually quite addictive once you wrap your head around it. It has a few options for variety, it's somewhat unique in its snake mechanics, and it plays well enough. If you enjoy these sorts of quirky puzzle games, why not give Wildsnake a shot? It's good fun.